Okay, there we go. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is part two of our writing block. We had all kinds of craziness happening this morning. So, ooh, excuse me, I just couldn't get them right. They just were not, these lessons were not recording correctly. So, let's move on to part two, where we are going to talk about, let me share the screen with you. Share my screen. And there we go. We are talking about simple, compound, and complex sentences. So you are going to understand how to create these types of sentences. Yes. So let us take a look. Can we have anything on here? Google Slides. Beautiful. Let's take a quick look at some of these examples. Simple, compound, and complex sentences. Okay. I'm just going to do it this way. We're not going to be, it's not. So simple, compound, and complex sentences. Once a writer knows the difference between these sentence types, it's possible to write with sentence variety. And sentence variety helps make our sentences more interesting. A simple sentence contains a subject and a verb, and it expresses a single complete thought. A simple sentence is a single independent clause. Independent means it can stand on its own, right? So here's some sample simple sentences. The cat crept through the dark house. The weary mouse, what? Watched from underneath an upturned cereal box. The predatory cat stopped and surveyed his surroundings. The mouse darted for the safety of the invisible hole, nearly invisible hole under the cabinet. So we've got a subject and we've got a verb. The cat did what? Crept through the dark house. The weary mouse what? Watched. The predatory cat stopped and surveyed. And then the mouse darted. So those are simple sentences. And a compound sentence is going to contain two independent clauses. Conjunctions will join those clauses. And these conjunctions are joining words, and they are for, and, nor, but, or, and yet. We call it fanboys. That's a mnemonic device. We talked about that. Well, I will talk about that in our science lesson later. And so a conjunction, junction, what's your function? If you're old enough to remember that, it can impact the meaning of a sentence. Let's look. This is a sample compound sentence joined by a conjunction. The cat was unsuccessful in his attempt to catch the mouse, and the mouse was equally as lucky in his attempt to get the cheese. So our joining word is and, right? And we've got two sentences that could actually stand on their own. The cat was unsuccessful in his attempt to catch the mouse, period. The mouse was equally as unlucky as in his attempt to get the cheese. Two, they could stand alone. The dog had watched all of this, but he had refused to become involved. The dog had watched all of this, right? Could be a period. He refused to become involved. Again, it could become a sentence on its own, joined together by the word but. Another conjunction. Let's look at the third. The mouse could wait until dark, or he could risk a daylight raid on the pantry. And then the cats usually slept during the day. Yet, curiosity held him at the corner of the kitchen. Now, a complex sentence is an independent clause joined by one or more dependent clause. And a conjunction begins the dependent clauses And a dependent clause that begins a sentence must be followed by a comma. A dependent clause has a subject and a verb, but it doesn't make sense on its own. So a clause doesn't make sense on its own, a dependent clause. Let's take a look. Here are some of those subordinating conjunctions. After, how, until, although, comma, if, unless, as, inasmuch, as if, when, as long as, at least, in order that, whenever, as much as, now that, whereas, soon, he said, wherever, as though, since, while, because, comma, so that, before, even if, that, even though, and though. Now let's see how those would be used. After he gave it some thought, comma, right? The mouse decided to wait until after dark for his trek. So the mouse decided to wait until dark, that's independent, correct? But when you have after he gave it some thought, yeah, if you don't tell me, I'm hanging. So that is a complex sentence. It has an independent clause and a dependent clause, right? And we have those words like after, because, when. Let's take a look at the next one. The cat fell asleep on the warm kitchen because he was deprived of sleep the night before. Why did he fall asleep on the warm kitchen? Because he was deprived of sleep. When the mouse heard the soft snoring of his sleeping nemesis, he scurried to the pantry and grabbed enough food for the week. When, right? The dedicated feline sleuth keeps his nightly vigil, even though the four-sided mouse will not be coming out this week. And then last, we have a compound complex, but I'm going to save that. I'm not going to work on compound complex just yet. So let's take a peek at a worksheet that we may have. And yes, we do. We have a worksheet. Ooh, wrong one. So sorry. Our worksheet. And you know I wouldn't do this to you, right? Without what? Yes. So, simple, compound, or complex. What an adventure we had last Friday after school. Can I open this with Google Docs? Hopefully it won't change the format and I can just fill in for you. Ah, very nice. What an adventure we had last Friday after school. That's just a simple sentence. What an adventure we had. When? Last Friday after school. So we have a subject and a verb, right? The subject is what? The adventure. And when we had last Friday after school. Simple sentence, y'all. Beautiful. Now, next one. It all started when we were on our way to the store. It all started when we were on our way to the store. Simple sentence, subject and a verb. It all started when we were on our way to the store. I'm going to skip a space there too. As we are driving, we notice the sky getting darker. So we notice the sky getting darker is a sentence that can stand alone. But as we are driving cannot. So this would be a what? Compound sentence. Let's look at number 4. Soon it was raining. We had to run into the store as quickly as possible. Soon it was raining. We had to ride into the store as quickly as possible. Do we have any of those conjunctions there? Fan, for, and, but, nor, fanboy, or, yet? We don't. So let's call this a compound sentence, right? My brother ran slowly and he got soaking wet. He did what? He ran too slow and he just got wet. Simple sentence. While we were inside, Mom bought a couple of cheap umbrellas. While, ooh, compound is misspelled. While we were inside, what happened? Mom bought a couple of cheap compound, right? Let's go down to number 8. I suppose we could all stay dry, but Mother Nature had other plans. That is a complex joined by a conjunction, right? I just wanted to go that far with you. And then here, we planned to share the umbrella. That should say to share, right? Between two people. That's just a simple sentence. And so there we go. I want you to, I did half. Well, a little more than half. You don't have to do that many, but I want you all to, oh, I got one wrong, I think. While we were inside, Mom brought two. While, that's a complex. I want you to go back. I want you to look through them, read through, watch the video, and then try your best. So that's all we have for for writing part 2. We will have science shortly. Take care.